think that's where, this story starts, is like how influencers, weren't necessarily people, there weren't advertising agencies that hired people like you, or, people that they thought were important or anything else. Stores did. Stores hired people that they thought were cool, that were in the right places, that could influence certain tribes that they wanted to get to. And so, that starts the story of boutique culture in a certain way.
The tribes.
Yeah, the tribes. Almost every piece of furniture that I ever found in New York had come from Bloomingdale's. And what she did was, she would set up these displays of really intricate and really beautiful and advanced pieces of furniture. And she would only do them on Saturdays, and she would call them, Saturdays people. And these were people that were younger couples that were interested in design, and they would go and they would be premiered every Saturday. So, one corner is Mark Held, who is a French designer. It's the first place that Frank Gehry showed his cardboard furniture. The other photograph up here is Pierre Cardin and Joe Colombo. So
this is every Saturday?
Every Saturday.
Oh my God.
Which would have driven you crazy as somebody that actually would have had to do that. Still to this day, there's no department stores that do anything like this. It's also worthy because Joel Schumacher, who later went on to become a massive director, was the in-house store designer. And the way he became a director was that Woody Allen used to go into the store and look at it and thought it was so futuristic that he asked who the person was that was doing the window design, and they said Joel Schumacher, and he hired him to do the sleeper. I read Keith Richards' biography, and he talked about that the first places that he ever heard country music and reggae music were at Granny's Takes a Trip. And it was played by one of the owners, whose name was Gene Krell. Solomon Rushdie lived upstairs. It's the place where Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols used to go and shoplift clothes. But it was a place that you went to listen to music. You didn't just go buy clothing there. You went and you shopped and you talked to people and you communicated. And there were no newspapers or anything else that pointed you in a direction of what was cool. The people that worked at these places were the coolest people in the city.
It was like a little hangout then.
It was nothing but a hangout. I think, it starts off by follow bands. And boutique culture is really important for that because, it taught generations how to dress, what to listen to, where to hang out, how to speak, almost everything. It was the place where you learned. The way that you look, the way that you dress, the things that you listen to today were so influenced and still are influenced by what it was that he did in this store. Yeah. As a kid, I was 16 years old. I was going for a summer job at Bloomingdale's. I got shot down as a stock boy. I'd already met Joey Arias, though, who basically, we'll go into that. I was walking down the street, and Andy Warhol was walking one way, and he was with Benjamin Liu, who later became a friend of mine, who was his assistant. And Andy was kind of notorious for walking up to guys that he thought were cute or something, and going oh, are you a movie star? What do you do? Or, oh, you're fabulous, and would just go on and on. And I was I don't know if I was in shock because it was him or what, but I was oh man, I just need a job. And he goes, oh, you should go in there. They'll hire you immediately. And I was no, they won't. He's yeah, they will. What you do is walk up to the cashier, and he's tell them that I sent you in. I'll be outside, and I'll wave, and I'll, and just tell them that, I want, that, I told them to hire you. And so, I go in, and I'm hey, that guy outside, Andy Warhol, told me to come in for a job. And Andy's standing there waving, and everybody in the store is waving back at him. And I remember saying to the cashier, no, he's waving for me. So after I got the job, I walked outside, and Andy was still there, and he goes, okay, well, here, you have to do something for me now. And I was like, well, what's that? And he goes, here's my number. Now think about this. Andy Warhol gives me his number and says, you have to call me when they're having the $10 sale. Fiorucci was designed by Ettore Satsas and Andrea Bronzi, who were the two heads of Memphis. And they were this was kind of their petri dish for Memphis. They were looking at American culture and goofing on it and actually blowing up the parts of it that they really, really loved. And at the same point, they were, expanding upon it. If you got a job at Fiorucci, you got the key to the city. And put the stores in the most difficult areas that you could possibly put them. Make them as austere as possible so that when the client gets there, they'll have traveled through this hardened area to this hardened store. Have the salespeople look as outrageous as they possibly could and be dressed as outrageously in layer and layer of clothing so that it will soften their idea of what the clothing is and make it more approachable by the time they get to the rack. If you wrote this as your business plan today, someone would laugh at you. Laugh at you. But she did close to $1 billion last year in cologne sales. What's also great about Supreme to me is that when you walk in there, you get the worst fucking attitude from everybody that works there, that you got to step up and really elevate yourself to some degree to deal with the kids that work there. And that's part of being a New Yorker. It really is. It's just because you can buy something doesn't make you fucking cool. It shouldn't make you cool. And Supreme is the best example of that.